much have you changed from what the defense was doing last year?
We're probably a little more aggressive with the front. The secondary, we've added a coverage. That was kind of the guts of us when I was at Texas and Stanford. Because when I got here, I just told Johnny, hey, let me just see how you're matching, how we're canceling gaps up front, and then I'll work our way through it. So we're probably canceling gaps a little bit differently, being more vertical, get upfield. I'm kind of wired a little more aggressive. So we're let's just say we're playing the run on the way to the quarterback rather than sitting on the line of scrimmage, maybe you could say. So that may be a little bit of a change. And we may add it maybe a twist or two up front. But that would be the biggest thing. The secondary stuff is going to be consistent. And then we'll probably, as time goes on, we'll be able to add a few more things because we're blessed that we have incredible IQs. I mean, not good IQs on the back end. Gunnar Maldonado, Traden Stukes, get used to the name. Nationally, you need to get used to the name. I've been around a lot of really outstanding defensive backs. Dalton is the same way, that you can just do a lot of stuff because they're concept learners. They're not memory learners. Manu is the same way. So that way, we're moving. I always talk about you come across, you get your degree over there, you cross the street, you're going to get a degree in defensive back play or football. It starts out at 101, it gets 201, 301. I got Ethan Bonner sent me a beautiful note from the Dolphins. He just said, I just appreciate you just teaching us the mental game, because he found out early he's further ahead of a lot of the guys that are in the room. He said, Coach, I'm now working on my master's. It was just a beautiful note. But that's the biggest thing.
When you have continuity like that in the secondary, how much easier does that make it?
It's huge. Yeah, because a year ago when I was talking about some of this language, I don't know if you've been out there, but I'm so big on communication and all, and basketball, screen right, screen left. So now the language, they're understanding the language, and they're understanding the reasons why. I teach from an offensive side of the ball, being a quarterback, offensive coordinator. So I teach a lot of offensive theory. So now they're starting to understand how the defenses are built. Don't just learn your position. Learn how the structure of the defense is built, what they're doing and why. So we meet together quite a bit. The back seven, the linebackers, the secondary. I did that last year quite a bit. And then we kind of would separate, and linebackers can get into the run game. So, just having continuity. And that's one reason why I chose to stay, I enjoyed running with Bobo and Gunnar and Dalton and Stukes and Ify. We were hopeful because then they were all coming back, and Manu and Flo and the two young black backers, Tay, was a big reason why I chose to come back, because just being part of them.
Well, you brought up your offensive background. I learned out there that you were the backup quarterback to Warren Moon.
Correct. So, oh man. Well, I would say this. So I was in Don James' first recruiting class. So I was being recruited by Jim Owens. So at that time, the University of Washington was one of the first teams that really threw the ball all over the yard. So it was Washington, Cal, and BYU. BYU just started out with Lavelle Edwards starting to throw. So that's what I was. So I'm proud to say, first kid out of Hawaii that got recruited by the UW. So when Don James came, he continued to recruit. So when I signed, Warren was in there with me. We were in the same recruiting class. So I always say to take some of the sting out of it. So I was his backup. So, it takes some of the sting out of it when the guy that beat you out is a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if you start off with his years up in Canada, all-time leading thrower in the history of professional football, when you take his years until he got in there. So it was great. We were roommates, good guy. Threw the prettiest ball I've seen till I saw Troy Aikman throw some, but it was just always. And in the horseshoe, the lakeside was open-ended. So there was a wind coming through there. Warren, it was no problem. He'd cut the wind. It was just. Myself, boy, when they had that thing ended up in the second deck now. That wind would catch it. So good guy, great player, learned a lot.
As roommates, what did you guys do off the field?
For me, we just kind of hung out. My friends, because he was 1 year ahead of me. So he came out of junior college. I came out of high school. So we were kind of separate groups that we ran with. But, we were good friends and all of that. But in terms of just running when we were off, he had his group, I had mine.
And then defensive line has been a unit of concern.
Yeah.
Where is that group at right now?
We're really really optimistic because you're correct. We lost a lot of major pieces, okay? But Bill Norton come back has been stable for us. But now the guys, Chuba and Isaiah and Keanu, they have been pleasant surprises for us. And then some of the pieces that we got, Trey, and even Deuce Lane. I mean, it's much like when I got here with Gunner. When a new staff comes in, there's some players that maybe were viewed maybe not as positive by some, okay? It's a fresh beginning. It's a fresh start, and that's what I shared with all of them. There's new coaches. It's a fresh start. So they've been excellent on that. And I'll tell you, Josie Omalo's done a great job, and Danny Gonzalez has been a great add with us. RC is going to be an outstanding young coach. That's why he is where he is. We're going to have to battle like heck to keep him. He reminds me of, Brennan. I've had some great GAs over the year. David Phipp, who's considered the #1 special teams coach right now in the NFL, GA'd for me. Him and Brett were the GAs. And Ephraim Banda, I can throw a list at you of guys, and that's where RC and Ty Nichols and Teddy Bolin, all these guys are outstanding coaches. I'm really encouraged with our defensive staff.
How do you size up the battle at that middle linebacker spot, or the spot next to mine?
Well, it's going to be do it right. Manu is, what we do with Manu is he'll learn both positions. Because I never like being tied into a depth chart. So if you notice, I just like playing the next best player. And we had to go through a couple options in the Oklahoma game. The Oklahoma game was a lot of fun for me. And I shared that with our staff and our players. Because now it's two great football teams. I always say, you guys have probably heard me say it, when you start playing for championships or at that level, athletic ability starts canceling each other out. So now it's the technician who understands the game, who's prepared for the game. We are also competing against another great coaching staff. I know all those guys from years going by. Plus, that's a big game for me now. That Oklahoma game was, for 14 years, was you kept your job or not, depending on that game. So all the counters, because they see what we're doing, now they make an adjustment. We see it, we have to make an adjustment. And so as you saw at the end of the game, we had to get Stooks out to the corner position once we lost Bobo. We tried to cut other pieces. It wasn't quite working out. So now, I had to get Stooks out there, But then on the inside fade, because number 12, the slot, was a major player in that. That's where the balls were going. So now we always wanted to keep Stooks on 12. So in man coverage, he went inside. If it was outside, so it was a fun game to work. But I didn't get tied into the depth chart. I played the next best player. And that's where a guy like Stooks, it's a hidden value. He can play all 8 positions on the field. Because the trick on that, I've had guys in the past that could learn all 8, but physically they can't play corner, some of the safeties. I've had some of the corners that physically can play all 8, but they can't learn them all. There's been very few. Michael Huff, Justin Reed, Trey Stooks can play and learn all 6 positions, all 8 positions.
What are the 8 positions?
Dollar, quarter, dime, nickel, and then base.
Similarly to the linebacker spot, but with the corners, you had DeCario there. What have you seen out of the second corner group, and how do you want to go about that?
Well, they're really building. By the end of the year, I brought all the corners in with me. We were meeting together. Because for 42 years, I had never had another coach in the room, another defensive back coach. Shoot, we were tripping all over ourselves last year. And you can't have that. You have to have one voice, in my humble opinion. I know guys do that to have 2. So by the end of it, we had them all in there together. And so now what I'm seeing is the fundamentals that I teach, G7, we are getting so much better at that. And Bobo's got a chance to be a dominant player because he's got what I can't coach. He's got length and speed. My job is to help him get to his potential. The frustrations I have as a coach, I think I shared it with you. If I think I have a chance to coach a great player and he doesn't become a great player, that's on me. Now, they have to do their part and learn and work and lift in the offseason too. But the other position is going to be a real battle, which is going to push Bobo, because we also got Stooks that can move outside too, because now Genesis Smith is really developing too. So now I'll always try to find ways, if we're going to play dime, nickel, is to just find the 7, 8 best players. They could all be corners. That's why they call you coach. Coach them so the best players can be on the field.
All right, that's our time.
Thank you, guys.